They almost didn't let him in. His clothes were worn, his shoes dusty, his beard uneven from years of neglect. The showroom gleamed with polished floors and glass walls, but the man standing at the door looked like he belonged to the street outside. Still, he walked in calmly, eyes steady, posture quiet but confident. Salespeople glanced at him and smirked. One whispered, "Another dreamer." Another laughed softly. When the manager finally approached, it was with impatience masked as politeness. "What can we help you with?" he asked. The ragged man looked around, taking in the massive machines, shiny Mercedes trucks lined up like giants of steel. He pointed without hesitation and said, "I'll take 5. The room froze for a second, then erupted in laughter. "A 5? Someone chuckled. "Sir, do you even know the price?" Another said mockingly. The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply nodded. "I know exactly what they're worth." The manager, still amused, decided to humiliate him a little further. "All right," he said. "How do you plan to pay?" The man reached into his worn coat and pulled out a small folded phone. He made one call, just one. His words were short and calm. When he hung up, he looked at the manager and said, "Oh, they'll be here in 10 minutes. More laughter followed. Customers watched, enjoying the scene. 10 minutes later, the glass doors slid open, and the laughter died instantly. 3 black SUVs pulled up. Men in suits stepped out, carrying briefcases. They walked straight past everyone and stopped in front of the ragged man, addressing him with respect. "Sir, everything is ready." The manager's smile vanished. The briefcases opened. Documents were signed. A transfer confirmation flashed on the screen. Enough money to buy not just 5 trucks, but the entire floor. Silence filled the showroom. Only then did they learn the truth. The man wasn't poor. He was a logistics contractor who had spent years rebuilding after losing everything. Home, family, reputation. He chose not to look rich. He chose to stay focused. While others chased comfort, he chased purpose. He chased purpose. He stood up, looked around the room, and said one final sentence. "You laughed because of how I looked. You should have listened to what I said." And with that, he walked out, 5 Mercedes trucks now bearing his name. That day, they didn't just lose a sale. They lost their arrogance. They laughed because they thought they understood him the moment they saw him. Torn sleeves, tired eyes, dust on his shoes, those details became their evidence. Their excuse to decide his worth without a single question asked. It's a common mistake one people make every day, often without realizing it. Humans are wired to judge quickly, to protect time and ego by labeling others before listening. But that instinct, unchecked, becomes arrogance. And arrogance is expensive. The ragged man didn't look offended when they laughed. He didn't shrink, didn't apologize for taking up space that they believed belonged only to the polished and powerful. He had lived long enough to know that respect, begged for, is never real. He stood there quietly, because he understood something they didn't. Appearance is temporary, but substance endures. Every wrinkle in his coat carried a story they never bothered to hear. Every scuff on his shoes marked a road, traveled, a lesson learned, a failure survived. What they saw as poverty was discipline. What they assumed was weakness was restraint. They mistook silence for ignorance and humility for helplessness. In doing so, they revealed more about themselves than about him. Judging someone by appearance is easy. It requires no effort, no curiosity, no courage. It allows people to feel superior without earning it. But it also blinds them. When you decide who someone is before they speak, you stop listening. When you stop listening, you stop learning. And when you stop learning, you fall behind, quietly, steadily, until one day you don't recognize how far others have passed you. The man had learned this lesson years ago, when life stripped him of everything he thought defined success. Back then, he had the suit, the watch, the polished words. And people respected him instantly. Doors opened. Smiles came easily. But when he lost it all, those same doors closed just as fast. That's when he realized how fragile surface-level respect truly is. It doesn't honor the person. It honors the costume. So he stopped trying to impress. He focused on rebuilding skill by skill, deal by deal, without needing validation. He let results speak when the time was right. He understood that people who judge too quickly often lack the depth to recognize real value. And instead of being angry about it, he learned to use it. In the showroom, the laughter didn't hurt him. It confirmed his understanding of the world. The same world that underestimates quietly prepared individuals and overestimates loud, flashy confidence. He had seen men with expensive suits crumble under pressure and men in worn clothes build systems that move cities. Experience taught him that true power is rarely loud and almost never flashy. Respect, he knew, should never be conditional on looks. The moment respect depends on clothing, status, or background, it becomes shallow. Real respect is rooted in recognizing shared humanity first and potential second. It's the ability to say, I don't know your story yet, but I'm willing to listen. That willingness is what separates wisdom from ego. When the room fell silent after the truth was revealed, the embarrassment wasn't just about the money. It was about the realization that they had failed a basic human test. They hadn't just misjudged a customer. They had exposed a mindset that limited them. They saw only what was visible, not what was possible. The biggest irony is that the cost of respect is nothing. A neutral tone, a genuine question, a moment of patience. But the cost of disrespect can be massive lost opportunities, broken reputations, and lessons learned too late. That day, they learned it publicly. The ragged man walked away unchanged because he had already mastered the lesson they were just beginning to understand. Never measure a person by what they wear, where they stand, or how they arrive. Measure them by how they speak, how they listen, and how calmly they move when underestimated. Because the world is full of people who look successful and are empty, and people who look broken and are dangerous in the best way possible. Most people believe power has a sound. They expect it to announce itself loudly, to arrive with confidence that fills the room, with sharp words and bold gestures. They assume strength must be visible, dramatic, undeniable at first glance. That belief is comforting because it makes power easy to spot, or so they think. But real power rarely behaves that way. Real power moves quietly, deliberately, and without the need for approval. The ragged man understood this long before he walked into the showroom. Life had taught him that the loudest voices are often the most uncertain, and the calmest ones usually belong to people who know exactly who they are. When you've been tested deeply, when you've lost, rebuilt, and survived, you stop needing to prove yourself. Confidence becomes internal. It no longer demands witnesses. As he stood among the laughter, his stillness wasn't weakness. It was control. He didn't rush to defend himself because he didn't need to. He knew that explaining yourself to people who have already decided your worth is a waste of energy. Quiet confidence isn't passive, it's selective. It chooses when to act and when to remain silent. The others mistook that silence for insecurity. That's a common error. Society often rewards noise, mistaking it for leadership. People who talk the most are assumed to know the most. People who interrupt are seen as dominant. But noise is often a mask, a way to cover uncertainty. Those who are truly prepared don't need to rush. They trust timing. Quiet confidence comes from preparation. It's built in moments no one sees, late nights, hard decisions, uncomfortable patience. It grows when someone keeps showing up without applause. By the time results appear, the work is already done. The man had spent years mastering his field, learning systems, building networks, and understanding risk. None of that showed on his coat, but all of it showed in his calm. There's a reason quiet confidence unsettles insecure people. It offers no cues to attack, no cracks to exploit. You can't intimidate someone who doesn't need your validation. You can't embarrass someone who has already faced worse in private. The laughter in the room was an attempt to regain control, to elevate themselves by shrinking him. But it failed because he wasn't playing that game. True confidence doesn't react, it responds. It listens more than it speaks. It doesn't rush to fill silence because silence is not empty. It's observant. The man watched them carefully, not with anger, but with clarity. He noted who laughed, who hesitated, who stayed quiet. Quiet confidence gathers information while others waste energy performing. When he made that single phone call, there was no drama in his voice, no attempt to impress. That's another sign of real confidence. Actions are enough. There was no need to threaten, no need to threaten. No need to boast. He trusted the outcome. Confidence like that doesn't depend on controlling people. It depends on trusting preparation. Many people fear silence because it forces them to confront themselves. In silence, insecurity grows louder. That's why so many fill space with words, jokes, or mockery. The ragged man didn't fear silence. He used it. Every second he remained calm. The imbalance in the room increased. His stillness magnified their noise, making their laughter look smaller, weaker. When the truth emerged, it wasn't shocking because of the money. It was shocking because of the contrast. The calm man had won without raising his voice. That moment exposed the illusion that confidence must be visible to be real. It showed that the most powerful people often blend into the background until the moment they choose to step forward. A quiet confidence is not about being secretive or distant. It's about being grounded. It's knowing your value without advertising it. It's moving with intention instead of urgency. People who possess it don't need to dominate conversations or rooms. They dominate outcomes. In a world obsessed with performance, quiet confidence is rare. And because it's rare, it's often misunderstood. But time always reveals the difference. Loud confidence fades when challenged. Quiet confidence endures, because it was never built on approval. The ragged man didn't walk out feeling victorious. He walked out exactly as he walked in, steady, composed, unchanged. That is the truest sign of strength. While others were laughing, the ragged man was waiting. Not waiting for approval, not waiting for attention, but waiting for the right moment. Patience had become his discipline, not by choice at first, but by necessity. When life took everything from him, it didn't give it back quickly. It made him earn it slowly, piece by piece. That kind of rebuilding teaches a person something most never learn. Rushing feels productive, but patience is what actually builds something that lasts. He had once been impatient too. He remembered chasing quick wins, fast recognition, and immediate comfort. And he remembered how fragile all of it was. One mistake, one bad season, and everything collapsed. That collapse taught him that anything built fast can fall faster. So when he started again, he chose a different path. He chose endurance over excitement, consistency over speed. Patience doesn't mean inactivity. That's the misunderstanding. While others assume waiting means doing nothing, real patience is full of work. Quiet work. It's planning when no one notices, learning when no one praises you, and preparing for opportunities that haven't appeared yet. The man had spent years doing exactly that. He studied markets while others slept. He rebuilt trust deal by deal. More. He accepted smaller roles without letting them shrink his vision. Every delay sharpened him. Every rejection strengthened his resolve. He didn't fight the process. He respected it. Because patience teaches timing, and timing separates effort from impact. You can be talented and still fail if you move too early. You can be skilled and still lose if you act at the wrong moment. The man understood that success isn't just about what you do, it's about when you do it. That's why the laughter didn't rush him. He wasn't offended into proving himself prematurely. He didn't feel the need to interrupt the process just to satisfy his ego. People who lack patience often feel insulted easily because their confidence is unstable. His wasn't. It had been tested too many times. Empires aren't built in moments of applause. They're built in long stretches of invisibility, in years where progress feels slow and doubt feels loud. Most people quit in those years. They mistake silence for failure. The ragged man didn't. He treated silence as training. Patience also teaches humility. When you've waited long enough, you stop believing the world owes you anything. You stop demanding recognition. You focus on alignment instead, on being ready when opportunity arrives. And when it does, you don't panic. You don't oversell. You simply step forward. That moment in the showroom wasn't luck. It was timing needing preparation. If he had tried to prove himself earlier in life, he would have failed. If he had arrived years too soon, he wouldn't have had the resources, the network, or the discipline. But he arrived exactly when he was supposed to. Others saw a ragged man asking for 5 trucks. He saw the next phase of a long plan finally activating. That's the difference patience creates. It allows you to see beyond the moment. It frees you from emotional reactions and keeps you focused on outcomes. Many people sabotage themselves because they want results before they're ready to carry them. Patience prevents that. It forces growth before reward. It makes sure the foundation is strong enough to hold what's coming. The man had learned that lesson the hard way, and he never forgot it. When success finally shows up after a long wait, it doesn't feel loud. It feels calm, familiar, earned. That's why he didn't celebrate or boast. To him, this wasn't a miracle. It was a checkpoint. One more step in a journey built over years of restraint. The truth is, patience doesn't just build empires. It reveals who is capable of building them. Most people want the outcome without the wait. They want the reward without the process. But those who endure the waiting quietly often end up standing alone at the finish line. The ragged man walked away knowing something the others had just begun to realize. Time rewards those who respect it. And patience, when paired with purpose, always wins.